In DC, we're just hoping that you listen.
Welcome to District Divided, a DC sports podcast. The Washington Wizards season is on fire officially. Bradley Beal is getting left wrist surgery that is going to end his season. It wasn't particularly clear to me in the Woj bomb whether he was getting the surgery just for kicks. He's capable of playing and the team just stinks, or if he actually has an injury, but he's done for the season. We're going to talk about the Wizards' future. Then we're going to talk about Old Glory DC. That is right. Major League Rugby has officially kicked off, and Old Glory DC got smoked, allowing 7 tries, losing 55-22 to Rugby ATL. We're going to talk about that game a little bit. I had to do that. And then we're going to conclude with the Washington Commanders name. What we think of it. Has it grown on us? KDot and I talked about it a little bit on our last episode. We got LC's fresh thoughts to get to. And then if time permits, we're going to get to the State of the Union, your DC sports wraparound coverage segment. But we are going to begin with the Washington Wizards, who are 24-29 on the season, 11th in the East. It is going badly, 2-8 in their last 10. And now Bradley Beal's season is over. His future is a giant question mark. KDot, let's begin with you. What are your thoughts on the Wizards right now and now the future? Because Bradley Beal could be off this offseason and we're going to see 0 more minutes of him this season.
Yeah, this is one of these things where so I asked, can we make sure Bradley Beal's on the itinerary for today, right? And then literally 30 seconds before about to record, Woj, bomb. Oh God, it's over. So I think that's been the thing is that I've had these debates, and we've had the debate on in the pod about like what to do with Bradley Beal. Like we've gone so long the last few years, like everybody kind of wanting Bradley Beal here on the team. What pieces can you add to the Bradley Beal thing and try to figure it out? And then I know that we were all kind of excited to see what it would be like with him being the first banana, right? Because we knew last year with Russell Westbrook, regardless of a talent standpoint, he is the top banana. You are second fiddle, right? That's just how it works.
Correct.
He's a terrible fucking top banana. He's just not the top banana. He's not your 1A banana. He's just not. And I think that everybody's kind of in this realm where the vibe I get from most fans is, all right, what's out there? Because you start hearing the James Harden's on the move and Ben Simmons is on the move. And I think that it becomes kind of interesting. All right, you look around. You look at his contract situation right now. He's turned down the 4-year extension because he expects after next year, when he becomes a free agent, he gets to test free agent market and then sign back with the super max deal with Washington, which gives him $70-80 million that any other team can offer him because he's staying here with the home team. And I've been saying it. I thought for years, Brad is just comfortable with the situation in Washington. He's not a go out, get kind of crazy guy. He's not a rah, look at me guy. He is, give me $80 million more than anybody else is offering where I can keep my family on the same situation. I feel kind of comfortable with that. I don't know if us as fans or the organization should be necessarily comfortable with that. Seeing what we're seeing from Brad Beal right now this year, do we really feel comfortable signing for that Supermax deal? Where especially looks like right now, because he heard about the trade rumblings, maybe he has the surgery to kind of shut himself down, get that clock kind of fast forwarding to that day where he can sign the Supermax.
Yeah, and so just to speak to Bradley Beal's deal, he has 1 more year on it after this season, at which point he becomes an unrestricted free agent. So that leaves Tommy Shepard in a position where he needs to figure out what the heck are we doing with Bradley Beal? We don't necessarily want him walking into a situation where he could just leave for free at the end of the season. So it's going to be very interesting there. LC, what are your thoughts on this situation? Again, the Wizards right now free falling. We do play the Pistons on Valentine's Day, so there is a chance for at least getting a dub in the near future. But yeah, oh my gosh, what are your thoughts on this? What do you think?
I mean, happen? Yeah, I think obviously the last season was he second in scoring in the league, right?
He was,
so
that's right.
We were all excited about him being the top banana, as Kadeen puts it. I think that I don't know what the change is exactly. Obviously, like there's a lot of personnel change in the team. But I think a huge contrast with last year, just in playing. And now obviously with this injury and the surgery things, this are starting to get a little bit more like political and contract wise more than about the play. And also nobody sort of at the beginning of the season, we were all like, if the Wizards are not last, like we'll be happy, right? Like we were sort of like, it's not a season to think we're gonna win it all. Like, of course, we were trying to, root for them and maybe get a playoff seat. Then we saw the first few weeks and we were like, okay, let's go win a fucking title. And now we were brought back to reality. But yeah, I mean, I think with Bradley, I agree with Karim that there's just something we've all been wanting to see in him, and sort of like a leadership and a this is my team kind of thing that just hasn't really been there. I don't know, honestly, what the heck do you go get? I don't know if James Harden is the answer, or Ben Simmons is the answer. Like, honestly, I don't know what you can use it. And I think this surgery now also puts a huge question mark, right? Like, what kind of team is willing to trade for somebody that you don't fully know how he's going to recover, right? Like, I mean, you don't have any guarantee that Bradley Beal is going to come back to being Bradley Beal. Not that, like,
sure,
sometimes like knee injuries and other injuries feel a little bit more, that they're like different, but still, it's just the trading value with the clock ticking, like, is a little bit harder to assess right now because he's just a question mark.
Right. And I also wanted to point out your words at the very beginning, LC. Like, we have a new coach in Wes Unseld Jr. and we want to win games, but ultimately it is about the process. It's about developing in the system that Wes Unseld Jr. is going to have over here.
I'll say also, I mean, you can never know what would have happened if things were different, right? Like that, we don't have multiple universes we can access. But seeing what Russell is doing in the Lakers and seeing what we got in exchange, I'm like, all right, let's build what we had. Like, that was good. We'll take it.
It was a good trade.
Right? It was a good trade. And, and maybe, we really fully focus on building these players and building this roster. Does Bradley play a part in that puzzle? Like, I honestly don't know. And I do wonder what the coaching staff feel of Bradley as well.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to say, sorry, KDot, is that what's intriguing here is, and I don't have the stat offhand, I wonder if one of you guys have it, but the Wizards' record without Bradley Beal is actually surprisingly good. And so I'm curious to see how the team kicks on now that we don't have a clear first banana, as we've been calling it, right?
And
in Bradley
Dinwiddie
Beal
has been playing very well. Right?
Yeah, and Dinwiddie, but although I will say that fans have been very pissed off with him recently. I mean, I saw like bench trade and cut, and it was Dinwiddie and two guys we had on veteran minimums just years ago. So like, public perception of Dinwiddie is not particularly high, but he has had some really good games. Yes. So
okay, that's what I think.
We'll see what happens with the team here. Yes, KDot.
So that's the thing, is that with or without Beal, it's the same output as far as wins or losses at this point, which is where it's like, that shouldn't be a discussion. Like, we should be clearly better with Bradley Beal than we are without him, right? So if I'm looking at that and I'm looking at, all right, the move for Russell Westbrook got you a hell of a core roster, right? Yeah. With depth and other things. Like, it's a pretty good roster. It's just no stars on it, right? Exactly. And you got a Spencer Dinwiddie who wants to push the ball up the court but doesn't have the talent to be the – Spencer Dinwiddie has the mentality of the first banana without the talent of the first banana, which is why – and you can't be on a team with Montrezl Harrell doing that, because Montrezl turns around and says, Spencer, shut the fuck up. And that's pretty much it, which is what you heard was coming down in the locker room, was they were telling Spencer, hey, calm the fuck down. Because you heard him say it himself. He wanted to be the leader and the guys didn't want him to be. I think they have him quoted saying that. And it's like one of those things where he pushes the ball down the court in that sort of way. He's not necessarily talented enough to do so. Bradley Beal is not a push the ball down the court guy anymore. He's just not that guy. I just feel as though we have talent, but the way that Bradley best plays is not necessarily most conducive to the rest of the way this roster looks. And I think that's what you have to make the decision on. Is I look at this team and I'm saying, all right, if we can get rid of Bradley Beal's contract and what's his name? Bertans' contract. Man. Does that put us in a better situation to make us more available to do things? Or do you need the Bradley Beal? And that's the thing that we have to build through and find the second or third piece for that. Because right now, I think the 76ers are trying to probably put together, I know the 76ers are probably trying to put together a Joel Embiid, James Harden, Bradley Beal combination of the three within the next 2 years. That's okay. Do we want to do our version of that? Has Washington ever been that free agent destination for those guys who want to go do that? No.
Yeah.
So what do you do?
I don't know. I think you probably one of the other talking points for people was Domantas Sabonis, who just got traded to the Sacramento Kings. A lot of people wanted him over here. He had a pretty team-friendly deal, only 25 years of age, and a nice front court presence. Now that he's in Sacramento, a lot of people are sort of are in this hopeless state of here we go again. Tommy Shepard, yes, he's made some nice moves, but ultimately we're just getting mid-level players. We're not getting that superstar, right? Russ was here for a year, then he was gone for these mid-level players, although that trade has gone well. But the Wizards, I just looked it up, 7-4 without Bradley Beal. And that should not be the case, like you said, KDot, if he truly is your best player, if you truly are talking about super max money. So I guess what you were hoping for is Tommy Shepard, Wes Unseld Jr. get in a room together and they go, okay, what kind of players would you like? And let's see if we can get a young up and coming star with some picks for Bradley Beal. That seems like the best way forward at this point, and allow Beal to go to a contender that can put them over the top where he's not the first banana. That way it can be sort of a win-win for the organization as well as Bradley Beal. That's the only way I can see us having success moving forward, is moving on from Beal. Unfortunately, I can't see it with him here getting a supermax and then getting another star. We haven't had another star come here unless they were traded for and then left after a year like Russell Westbrook.
Here's the thing. I want to see the commitment to one of two things, because I think right now for years, the only thing we wanted as Washington fans was to get away from the John Wall contract. The John Wall contract turned into the Russell Westbrook contract. The Russell Westbrook contract turned into several players, and we're just glad it's over, right? It's great. Yes. Fantastic. But I think because we made that move to get rid of that contract, we have a team that has zero identity. And I think right now, just the only decision is, and I'm cool with either option at this point, is build the team around Bradley, which is not this team, or scrap Bradley and start building from scratch around this core that you have right now. Right now, we got 1 foot in each, and it's not okay because it's just not a well-built team.
That's been the case for years. And
but now that the Wall contract is gone, you get the one supermax. Does that give you the flexibility? And is Bradley Beal a good enough guy to get somebody else to come with him? Because, I mean, that's the thing, is like, I think there's a possibility there, but now that he's shut down with this injury and not knowing what it's going to look like when it comes back, we probably just kick the can down the road another 2 years before anybody really assesses whether or not they want to come play with Brad.
And so that's what I wanted to get to wrap up this segment. What does success look like to you, gentlemen? Because for me, for the second half of the season here, to me, it is, do we continue this 7-4 without Beal thing? Like, do we continue to hover around 500 without him? Because if that's the case, I call that success. And I go ahead and say, hey, we got to move on and let's continue building a young core that can develop together under Wes Unseld Jr. Because that's the person you should be building around, is Wes Unseld Jr. here, if you believe in him as a coach. And I believe this is Tommy's first hire. I'm willing to bet he probably does. So, Elsie, why don't we begin with you? What is your thought of success for the second half of this season here?
Yeah, I mean, around 500 sounds reasonable. I think, you don't want to extrapolate from a 7-4 or from a 7-4 to whatever, how many games
I'm saying, by the way, that we would actually drop 3 additional games. We would get to record without Beal ends at 500, let's say.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean, that sounds fine. I think, again, for me, success would not be about, like, I know that sounds dumb, but
wins and losses
would not be about wins and losses. Like at this point in the team building, the success would be about how good some of these players are building up, how well are they playing together, how comfortable they feel with the coach. Like, some of those things would be, I think, better metrics of, did we do our job this season, than whether we finish, over or under 500.
Yeah, that is totally fair. KDot, your thoughts?
Yeah, it's like I said, I think this season's just we're now without the Wall contract season. And right now, this is the team that doesn't have any identity. I think they have enough talent to hover around that play-in standpoint. And is that a success? I don't know, because I expect this team to look different next year, regardless. And I want this team to look different next year. My hope is that the young core guys, I need Rui to still look good. I need Denny to look good. I need the young guys to show, hey, we're making strides and we're going to be pieces that you can rely on for us to build, or to make sure that that's a legitimate option that we have as far as what the team is going to look like 3 or 4 years down the line.
Yeah. I think the hope was it was going to be Rui or Denny and Bertans for a Jerami Grant or for it, which I guess could still happen, or a Domantas Sabonis, which can no longer happen. So we'll see. The deal, by the way, that Beal can get over the summer, 5 years, $245 million. As of right now, I would be hesitant to give it to him. As much as I love Brad, I think he's great for the city. I think he, is a really fucking good player. Clearly, that's why we're talking about even giving him this money. But if the team continues to perform without him, and it's not performing well, just to be clear, it's not like, oh, we're so great without him. It's whatever. It may make more sense to move on.
And just to let you know, this league is a league of superstars.
It
Building
is.
around Wes Unseld might sound good, but I'm just saying, what do you put in this situation to get a superstar here?
No, I appreciate you calling me out on that. That is fair. Let's see if Beal can pull in that case. Let's see if Beal can pull another superstar here and maybe go that route. Let's go ahead and talk about rugby because we are committed to doing that now. Major League Rugby has officially kicked off. We did lose our opener 55-22. And when I first started watching that game to Rugby ATL, when I first started watching that game for Old Glory DC, first off, I was very confused. I mean, just watching all the new different techniques. We should have had it.
We should have had a live Zoom.
Maybe we can do that next time. We'll live stream it because I started getting the hang of it a bit more as it went. I was beginning to understand the strategy more. And it was really fun to watch. That being said, we got our asses kicked, unfortunately.
Yes.
So, Elsie, what were your thoughts on the game? Was it nice to see rugby? And I want you to highlight, did you see a significant number of mistakes relative to maybe the top level competitions of like the Six Nations, for example, or something like that?
Yeah, sure. So obviously, a tough game, specifically the second half. Just Old Glory's fully collapsed. There was just no defense whatsoever. So a lot of times you look at the one of the metrics are like missed tackles. So it's like an attempted tackle that the player sort of escapes, but they actually had Old Glory and Rugby ATL had a similar number of missed tackles. Like there was at some point that Old Glory was just not even tackling; they were just walking by you. So it was the second half was, I think, absolutely terrible, especially on defense. But I think if we compare it to the Six Nations, there's a lot more. Obviously, like those guys, the European teams that are in the Six Nations, like those are really, really good teams. They're not the very best. Like the very best are usually New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, but they're like the second tier of best, like top 10. And so those guys I think there's a different sense of strategy, but there's also every player is a much better all-around player. So a lot of times in like leagues like the MLR, you have like people who are very specialized. Like the forwards are really, they really have their set jobs and they do that job, and like that's about it. Whereas a lot of times in top teams, you see like a lot of the backs using their feet. Like pretty much every back can kick the ball. You can see forwards making runs as if they're a fucking wing. Like it's just ridiculous. I think it was watching Wales, Ireland. There was a pass all the way to the board, to the line of touch, to the sideline. And number 3, which is a forward, the numbers tell you, number 3 is just running there like a wing, breaking away. I'm like, what the fuck is he doing over there? Like you wouldn't see that in a lot of other leagues like the MLR. The forwards, the hooker, they would just not be doing that. So it's just they're well-rounded players.
Yeah, one of the questions I had, Elsie, was I wasn't expecting to see the number of drop balls that I did. Sure. Right. So like there were a lot of situations where they would punt for field position, very similar to football. By the way, it's just not like a set play. It's just if you're deep in your own territory, you choose to punt it away. And so then, exactly. You're clearing it. Okay. So there's a term there. But the number of drop balls on punt returns, I suppose, or those clear returns, if you will, and then lineouts, right? So lineouts, I was expecting to be clean. And a lot of times they would drop those. Old Glory would more specifically. And ATL just looked faster.
So in the first half, I think you could tell that Old Glory had a sun against them. And I think that may have helped some of the knock-ons that you saw. Because, and I've been there. I was that guy. I was the fullback. Like there are days, I remember some of my game goals were like not dropping a ball. And there were days where, man, all I could see was the fucking sun. And the ball was coming at me. And I was like, nope, I have no idea where it is, and just hope that I'm going to grab it. But yeah, that happens in lineouts. It's a little bit different because sometimes instead of grabbing it, you just tap it back towards your side. But yeah, I mean, knock-ons are very common. It's just a part of the game. I wouldn't even say that when you watch Six Nations, there's a lot less. Like, yes, there are fewer. Things come back, but it's not, like there's mistakes in every game. That's just a part of the game.
Right.
Especially if you watch like any rainy games, like good luck.
Yeah, no, that's totally fair.
Nice.
For those that were wondering, KDot's screen went black, and so he had to quickly restart, and he's back.
Right, re-emerged.
Yeah, and you caught all the rugby talk, obviously, while your PC was black. So one of the nice things I did see, because Rugby ATL, I thought did a fantastic job, and I guess there are a bunch of advantage offside calls or whatever
Sure,
that
I'll
we
tell
got
you
to.
what that is.
Right,
Yeah.
thank you. But one of the things that I noticed one of our, I think, wingbacks did was I think that's the knock on that you were describing, where he just sort of kicked it to himself and just ran forward so that he.
No, knock on is when you drop the ball with your hands.
Oh, okay. So there was a moment where he knew he was going to get tackled. He saw a bit of space behind the line, and he just sort of kicked it to himself and ran forward. It went out of bounds, but I love the idea. I was like, oh, first off, didn't know that was allowed. Secondly, that is an incredible play.
It's great. And you can watch compilations of those. It's like a grub,
Okay.
So the grub is when you kick it. Sometimes it's almost like a pass, and sometimes it's to yourself, but you kick it on the ground in a way that in a few meters it'll bounce up, and so it'll be at your hands like height. So you kick it on the ground, and when it starts to slow down, it actually picks up, and usually you get to grab it. So it's a fantastic play that, it's one of those things. You usually use it when you see, if I get tackled, I'm going to get tackled out of bounds, which means it's a turnover. And so you rather do that. And if it doesn't work out, it's a turnover anyway, but it's further down the road.
Okay.
Exactly. And if it does work out, then we're through. So it's great. But yeah, it's a very common play.
I want to quickly shout out on Rugby ATL. I believe his name was Danny White. That dude looked like Marshawn Lynch in his prime. That dude broke 5 tackles en route to a try, and he got to choose where that try was happening. Like
it's the second try, I think, right?
Yeah, it was one of the most incredible.
Very good.
Even the commentators like, how did he do that? Because when you're watching the whole game, they're getting tackled pretty quickly, pretty often. And he broke 5 in a row. And I was like, someone stop that fucking dude. We couldn't do it. It was an incredible run.
I remember seeing that try. I was like, that was pretty fucking good.
Okay. So cool. I wanted to make sure we have our expert LC over here that was in fact pretty good.
You were right.
Okay, because I was like, holy shit. So I'm excited to see more rugby, though. I really enjoyed it. And the referee being mic'd up, I think, is a really cool interactive feature where I felt like I knew what was going on.
I've been advocating, man.
Yeah.
I've been advocating. Mic up every ref in every sport. We have to. It's just so informative.
Yeah, I think it's brilliant.
And it gives you such a sense of like what the actual conversations are. And I know that if you did it right now in soccer, you would hear like the most nasty things said to the ref. And like
I paid more for it. Absolutely.
But here's the thing. If I'm a ref in soccer and I'm mic'd up and somebody says something really nasty to me, I'm like, hey, guess what? I have an excuse to give you a red card because you're on fucking TV telling me to go fuck myself. I'm like, oh, here you go.
You just told millions of children around the world that I need to do the following. Right.
Yeah. It's just like, it will be so much easier to deal with that shit. But, all right, whatever.
Anyway,
different sport.
Anyway, so on the subject of the Old Glory DC, their next game is this Saturday, 8:30 p.m. Still on the road against Austin Gilgronis is what we're calling it. It could be Gilgronis, Gilgronis. We're learning to, but that's 8:30 on FS1. It's gonna be on FS1.
Hell yeah, baby.
Yeah, and then we play the New England Free Jacks at home, February 18th, Friday.
Opener.
Might actually go to that game. Could be fun.
Let's do it.
Let's fucking do it. And I need to reach out to Old Glory DC about potentially partnering up with them. Let's talk about the new name of our football team, the Washington Commanders. Okay, so KDot and I talked about it a little bit, and that was our very initial reaction. And it's been a few days. Gut reaction. Thank you. And it's been a few days since then. But Elsie, I want to hear your thoughts first because we haven't heard from you yet. What are your thoughts on the new team name?
Well, I mean, a few. So first, like, what was the whole thing with like leaking it? Was it it was like, okay, so if you leaked it on purpose. Okay, so if you did it on purpose, it totally took the surprise out. If you didn't do it on purpose, then why did it get like
Dunder Mifflin was in charge of making sure it wasn't leaked.
So it's like, okay, either way it doesn't look great, but okay, sure. Let's move on from that one.
It's misdirection by
Yeah,
showing
right.
you the direction.
Exactly. I was like, because I saw that on, I think it was Twitter. It was like, is it a misdirection? And I was like, oh, JK, it wasn't. I'm like, oh, well, now I kind of knew it. All right. And like, it just was so disappointing. But yeah, the video was a little bit cheesy, like, like a little bit cliche, but okay. All right. I get it. Somebody had to do that. Yeah, I mean, the name, I get it. It has a military component, like it's Washington, D.C. I get it. I love the joke from The Onion of like the team receiving $20 billion from the defense budget. That was just
for free
fantastic.
agents. Yeah.
It's just like, you know what, they would do that. So yeah, I mean, I think, you know, the name, it's nothing to be super excited about. Like, it just feels like, okay, it's a name. I was wondering, you know, Lindsay, like, what's a mascot? Like, do you pick a commander? Like, do you have him fight the presidents of the national sport?
I think
like,
Biden just comes to every game and just sort of
he is the mascot. He's not the president anymore.
Well, because
So, like,
then presidential elections, we're actually voting for our mascot because he has to come to every game.
participation would go up the roof.
Are you kidding me? Yeah. Oh my God. Presidential elections would be fascinating if we were picking our mascot as well.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, to me, it was just like, it was just not that exciting because we kind of knew it already. Like, I was like, oh, what if they just all of a sudden are like, you all thought it was the Commanders, and like, boom, it isn't. It was just like, oh yeah, we knew it. Okay. So I don't know, just a bit just deflating, I guess. It just wasn't, I'm not too crazy about it, but I don't know what kind of name I would have been jumping around for. Like, honestly, like, I kind of think they could have picked something that would have been like, I'm gonna go buy a jersey now. Like, and so that's all right.
That's sort of the problem with taking 2 years to figure out a name, right? Is like, if you're gonna take that much time, then everyone's expectations are now here. Whereas if you were to just sort of drop it, it'd be like, hey, in a week we're gonna give you something. I think then people are still here, but then once it falls, which it will, then they're like, well, it really should have been here. They only took a week. I mean, it's fine. So, KDot, what about you? What are your thoughts on the name now that it's been a few days? I know we gave our gut reactions there, but what are your thoughts now?
It's the same thing. It's because I knew the name for 2 months, right? So it's like I've already come to terms with it. I still stand. I actually am liking it more as far as the sound of it. The more that I go along, I think the mascot's going to have a lot to do with how much I love the entire full run of everything. I'm hearing that it'll be a hog of some sort, maybe like a hog with a military, which kind of taps into the whole
history of the team, right?
I will say, from a sensible standpoint, the more I think about the name Commander, the more it makes no sense to me. In the sense of, there's not a lot of commanders. There's never like a team of commanders to go into battle. Commanders are like individual leaders, like on their own. Like, if you're going to be a multiple, it's like command center, and that sounds stupid. Or the Washington
that could be the field name. We're at the command center. Now, that's
the situation room.
To me, like, the more I think about commanders, the more it feels like it's just a bunch of individuals that just happen to be together. Like, it doesn't feel really team inspired.
The more I think,
well, here's the thing. I have seen a lot of people actually think it's commandos, like Commando, like the movie.
Oh.
And
and then they're all just like not wearing underwear. I like that.
But look,
Can we change it?
Still, the thing I hated the most was the way they roll out. Like you said, Amit, the anticipation they built. They kind of shot themselves in the foot by the lack of execution throughout everything they were doing. When they kept building up all this misdirection and, hey, we see the logo and the reflection of the fucking glass that you're showing the coach on because you guys are just incompetent.
Yeah.
Like, there's no misdirect there. Like, maybe some of the domain names were like, all right, that was kind of fun when we were trying to internet sleuthing on that, but it's immediately everything would just, oh yeah, that doesn't make sense. Just get rid of that.
I think the real misdirection was showing people that they knew what they were doing, because that wasn't the case. That was certainly a misdirection. But like, because if they're taking 2 years, maybe they have their shit together, but no, they didn't. And the leak happened so fast, and it happened on like local TV. And then we had Joe Theismann, who I learned today has actually returned 15 punts in his career. Quite impressive. But he straight up said it on CBS radio 2 days early, and that was on national TV.
Here was the misdirection. Look at our new team name. Look at all this shit. Forget about the Congress stuff happening over here.
I know.
Like, that's the only misdirection that kind of worked.
But that's why Congress scheduled it for the day after. Once they found out it was February 2nd, they're like, okay, Cool. We're going to go ahead and do that. By the way, if you guys heard my dog just barking earlier, Barkley's pretty hype about the name. He actually does like the name Commander. He actually likes it. He actually likes it.
Every team name sounds stupid until you get enough time with it.
That's what I'm saying.
That's fair.
Like it's already grown on me a little bit too.
There
Like,
are only a few team names that like pass the sniff test immediately, right? Like 76ers makes sense. 49ers makes sense. Baltimore Ravens makes sense.
What about Packers?
The Packers make sense from a historical standpoint, but if you can't, because they were
a bunch of Packers.
They were look, trust me, the amount of fudge packing jokes I've made over my years. But cool. I think they were legit like meat packers in Wisconsin a very long time ago that owned the team. Makes sense.
Okay.
I think Commanders therefore makes sense. I mean, like, look, you got a bunch of Packers going out to play some football. Like, you could have a bunch of Commanders just sort of roll out and be like, you know what, we're done with this.
Just saying, if somebody said we're naming the New York football team the New York Football Giants, everybody turn around, what the fuck are y'all doing? What?
Yeah,
the Football Giants. What is that?
Fair.
Like, still best name in all the sports, in my opinion, the New Orleans Pelicans.
Pelicans.
If you ever seen a pelican in real life, the motherfuckers are terrifying. They kidnap children.
So are geese, by the way. Geese are scary.
Look, pelicans are a different kind of scary. Like birds just kind of scare me. If you ever like fed an emu or something, those motherfuckers like to peck at you with like the black eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Black eyes like a dog's eyes.
I was just matching the eyes you were giving. Yeah.
But it's just pelicans are fucking terrifying. And they're like, all right, around the Gulf makes sense. The Utah Jazz is stupid, but if they were the New Orleans Jazz, great A, right? Like there are certain team names that make sense immediately. There are other team names that are just fucking dumb. The Raiders. Yeah. When's the last time you saw a pirate in the Bay Area, jackass? It's like, what the fuck is that? Like, I don't like what? Come on.
You don't know about that?
Jack Sparrow of Oakland.
Yeah.
E40 moonlighted.
I thought it was common knowledge that he went to Oakland first.
It's just there's a lot of dumb names, and I think the hardest part for me right now is stop saying Washington football team. I'm still saying football team. That's the hardest part for me to break. Is that I've just been so used to saying football team now because I've been really good about not saying the R word.
Yeah.
I've been really good about it, unless I'm like specifically talking about like an era that the team was.
Right.
It's been really hard saying Washington Commanders. I've really struggled with it last week.
Yeah, I think that's totally acceptable as well. It's going to take some time. The only reason I've gotten used to saying Commanders is because I've been tweeting hashtag take command and take accountability in light with these Congress hearings and stuff like that, because that's just what. Oh yeah. Don't worry. I didn't just do
like, that. That's weird.
Hey, hashtag take command and take accountability of your day. Have a great day, everybody. Like that's
what I thought you were doing.
Have a great day, but that's not why I was doing. We didn't turn it into an inspirational
perfect team name. Command her. Command.
Oh yeah. Someone wrote that in response to the congressional hearing and the committee and oversight report. They're like, "Oh, we're the commanders." That's what we are. Yeah. So. Yeah, there's
bad timing there.
Yeah, I know that little play on words as well. Why don't we wrap this up with the State of the Union DC Sports wraparound coverage segment? Want to begin with a big congratulations to the Washington Spirit, who officially have a new owner that the players want as well. That's right. Michele Kang is officially the owner of the Washington Spirit. Everyone, I mean 100% of fans, media, players, you name it, everyone's happy about this. I actually would challenge anyone to give me a pro sports team that has had a better year than the Washington Spirit, because their turnaround has been incredible. They went from a coach that was verbally abusive to players for many years to having an owner that would not condone it, a championship with an interim coach that now has become the head coach, and Trinity Rodman is now a millionaire, 4-year, $1.1 million deal. She seems to be, as I've been saying, people, potentially the future GOAT of
potentially.
I believe it's
the high stakes. I've been saying potentially.
No, I'm saying that she is
always true.
Yeah,
I'm saying
there's an episode named
she is
Trinity Rodman.
She is the future GOAT, and she will be. But for those of you that are still hesitant, you got to give me potentially at minimum. That's all I'm saying. So that's the Washington Spirit. Guys, the Caps, a bit up and down, but I think, the Super Bowl's right around the corner. March Madness is happening. We're, I think, 16 points clear of a playoff spot. We should be fine. Go
Question.
ahead, LC. Yeah.
Are there any NHL players in the Olympic hockey team?
Oh, you know what? That is a
Like,
terrific
do
question.
we send anybody?
I don't know,
How
actually.
does that work?
I don't know.
It's the middle of the
Because
season. They need to stop.
Ovechkin's been hurt, and so he ended up he's actually supposed to be back in the lineup. I don't know that we sent anybody.
Yeah.
That is an excellent question.
just
I
wondering.
should follow that. I have not followed that.
Yeah, I think it was
don't
a
know.
thing. I think no NHL players are in it this year.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And Tommy Wilson was named an all-star, so that was kind of cool too. A bit while back. Coolest DC
Yeah.
sport athlete, excuse me, Tom Wilson.
NHL stars, NHL dropped out of the Olympics in December amid the
Okay.
surge of the COVID-19 cases.
Gotcha.
That
Okay.
actually makes a lot of sense. All right, appreciate that. Georgetown. I just want to quickly touch on this. They are on, I think, their biggest losing streak in school history right now. And as a Georgetown fan, that fucking sucks. I don't know, despite all that, and yet I don't know what's going to happen with Patrick Ewing. He may still stick around because he is a school legend. He has also been screwed by many, many circumstances with players getting kicked off the team due to doing stuff on campus that was just stupid, to transferring when he trusted that they were going to be there. We won the Big East, for example, last season in the tournament, and then Kudus Wahab moves to Maryland. Now he's getting no minutes over there. Good for you, Kudus. Like, I mean, all sorts of stuff has been going on around him, and so it's sort of hard to gauge, but just letting people know the program is not in a good spot right now. There are a few games left. I think people are just sort of hoping the season ends, but shout out to the fan base who sticks it out, because those are some of the most loyal people I know. They care so much about this program, and it's just in a really rough spot right now. We'll see maybe some more Big East tournament magic to come. What else? I guess there's DC United, but we're still, I think Miguel Estrada is a guy. He's a forward that we're going to be paying maybe like millions of bucks to. I think he's supposed to be the next big guy now that Paul Arriola is gone and Kevin Paredes is gone as well. Any other thoughts on DC sports in general, folks? I know it's sort of a very broad question, but I think that more or less touches on everything.
I love the Russ Wilson, the Washington rumors.
Do you think it happens? Quick, rapid fire.
Yes.
Yes?
I don't know. I got a feeling. I don't know. It might be just that Washington hope that we have in the off seasons. But for some reason, I feel like something's going to happen.
That's the name.
Well,
The Washington Hope.
The Washington Hope.
Just forever.
That's the lamest goddamn football name in the history.
That's going to be Hope football.
It's
Oh,
just Hope.
God.
Interception by Hope. By the Hope.
It's so sad.
Goodness.
It's so sad.
And unfortunately, we're going to have to end it on that. This is District Divided, a DC sports podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I am Amit. That is LC. That is KDot. If you want more shenanigans like this, tune in every week, Wednesday, 3 p.m. We will see you at that time next week as well. Take it easy.
South Korean zombie cinema is the greatest subgenre in the world right now.
This is what we deal with. This is what we deal with.